Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live show brought to you by the Eden Alternative this afternoon. And I will tell you, I am very excited. As always, I love these live shows, but these people I know pretty well. So I have some team members from St. Anne's community, and St. Anne's is right here in my city, your city, of Rochester, New York. So really thrilled you were able to come on and chat with us today and tell us a little bit about your resiliency and creativity, which I know you guys have in spades. So today we have Susan Murdy. Sue is the vice president at St. Anne's Community. And also we have Trisha Jean Jones, or sometimes I call her TJ, who is the director of life enrichment with us today. And they're just going to share some of their stories. Very large community, St. Anne's is, some of the things they've been through. We all know the COVID story and what really led them to the really creativity and resiliency that they show and continue to show I really daily. So thank you again for being here, Sue and Trisha Jean. Sue, do you want to kind of get us started? I know you're going to tell us a little history, a little bit about St. Anne's.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. We're so glad that you invited us to participate with this. It's really an honor. So thank you very much for the invitation. So I'll tell you a little bit about St. Anne's and kind of what brought us to the Eden Alternative and our journey over the past, I think 20 months is going to be really what the meat of what we talk about. But just a little bit about St. Anne's. We're a faith-based organization founded by the Good Sisters of St. Joseph back in 1873. So we have a lot of history within the Rochester community, specifically the Catholic Rochester community. Over the last 50 years or so, the sisters no longer run us, but we still have that legacy, and they have set us up for success in every way. So we owe a lot to the sisters. We started off as a nursing home. Actually, we started off a long time ago as a home for industry for women who were not married, believe it or not. And then that eventually turned into a nursing home over a period of years. And our legacy buildings at St. Anne's Home here on the Portland Avenue is a large nursing home. We have service 470 at our height of occupancy. 470 elders were served here on this campus. About 15 to 20 years ago now, we opened a new campus in Webster that is more of what I would call a life care community lookalike. So it's got all levels of care, cottage homes, independent apartments, assisted living, memory care, and a small 72-bed nursing home there. So we also have adult day services, a geriatric medical practice, in-house pharmacy, in-house medical practice. We have a lot of services that St. Anne's provides to seniors. So we're real proud about our legacy, again, started by the Good Sisters of St. Joseph. So I want to just talk a little bit about our journey with Eden Alternative. We started with the Eden Alternative group about, I want to say like 3 years ago, and we achieved our first milestone and signed on to the Eden Registry right before the pandemic hit. And by right before, I mean right before. So I don't know if you remember, Chris, but we had our dedication ceremony set for Friday, March 13th, 2020, which is a day I think everybody will remember as, for many of us, the last day our kids went to school and the world shut down the next day, and everything was different for so many weeks thereafter. So I'm ever grateful for the foundation that Milestone One had giving us as we entered what can only be described as the most tumultuous parts of all of our lives and careers. I don't think any of us in any industry have gone through anything before or since, but the foundation that Milestone One had us, we had already started our soil warming and leadership development, and really talking about how we were making decisions and making sure the elder was front and center in our decision making. Even if, and throughout the pandemic, quite frankly, they couldn't be the decision makers because decisions were made on a minute by minute basis and it was an emergency. But it was always done with the elder in the forefront, and making sure that we're making those decisions with the elder in mind always. So that really helped us with that, with the beginning of the pandemic in particular. I want to also mention that when we were starting our journey with Eden, we were also starting a physical transformation of our organization. So we have a multi-million-dollar project that is actually hopefully going to end in about 6 or 7 months. It's been a long time, and that started right before the pandemic as well. So we've been renovating this very large long hallway institutional style building to be households. We've been putting in living rooms and kitchens on every floor, where it was really just rooms and a nurse's station. So that's been very exciting and stressful at the same time while all this is going on. But that was one of the other big defining reasons why we wanted to join Eden, was to not only change the physical structure of St. Anne's, but also our culture here. So I always call it dumb luck. The dumb luck about that whole thing is that when COVID hit, and at some point in 2020, we were hit pretty hard. We had 60 cases just in 1 month of May of 2020, and 20 in cases in June. So 2 months, if you add it all together, 80 cases of elders who had COVID. That's a lot of COVID in our building, even though we were a large building. We were able to cohort all of those folks, and our incidence of hospitalization and death rate was very low compared to the rest of the community. So even though we had that many folks who had COVID here, our death rate was under 10%, which is much better than most nursing homes across the country. And, I call that the sisters, God looking out for us. And we, at the right time, ended up having a completely empty unit that was just getting ready for demolition, that we quickly switched gears and made a COVID unit. And we were able to effectively, keep the virus at bay when we needed to. So, and then throughout that whole year, we ended up slowly opening floors one by one, and the whole organization had to come together. Every single human being that worked in this building had to come together to move those folks without their families being present here. We were their families. We had to step up and make sure we were taking care of people. And this team performed like no other team. I am so proud of what we've been able to do here with the great staff that we have working here. So I know Trisha Jean wants to talk a little bit about kind of how she's our director of life enrichment and really led us through that first milestone, and kind of how those principles led up to where we are.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Sue. Thanks for having us, Chris. Yay! I'm also an educator for the Eden Alternative. So I've had the privilege of being able to work with my colleagues and set a lot of base work on the Eden Alternative and becoming certified Eden Associates. So before we even hit the milestone 1, which you don't need a ton of people as certified Eden Associates to achieve that, we were far ahead of the game. We had over 100, almost 150 people trained and ready to go and on fire for culture change and for just putting our elders at the center and taking care of our staff and employee care partners in a way that we have never done before, or just pushing the envelope a little farther. So we were able to do a lot of work before that day in March came. And I think that truly helped build a sense of community even stronger than we had in the past. People were able to be in each other's shoes in a way that just naturally happened. We blurred the lines even more, and silos started coming down. We were all wearing, scrubs or less business-like and more home-like, and we were serving meals and cleaning bathrooms and stocking shelves, whatever had to be done so that we could support our elders and, more importantly, our care partners that were also living through the pandemic inside and outside of work. What a heavy burden we had sometimes, being our family's loved ones and then being the loved ones and the only contact for our elders, as we were closed for visitors for almost 13 months. So it was a blessing, and I think we came together, we cried together, we laughed together, we sweated in those gowns together. We had a lot of good time, but focusing on the domains of well-being and really centering them, just knowing that we are all in it together really did help as we were moving through it. So, yeah.
Wow. Wow. I very impressed, very impressed. And I know you guys kind of did something. I think Sue, you're going to talk about this a little bit. You kind of came up with this kind of buddy system as well, right?
Yeah. So the buddy system, that's an interesting, the way the buddy system got started actually had nothing to do with the pandemic. We've used a buddy system in the past for other things. So this is kind of a good example of what a system that worked well for a different reason also worked well in this situation. We, in preparation for our construction, we ended up using a buddy system where anytime a resident had to move or an elder had to move, we paired them up with them, their families, up with a person who is working here, so a staff member here, and people volunteered for that. I would send out an email, hey, who wants to volunteer for this move? People would volunteer, and then they would be like the project manager, if you will, for the move. So when the day that came, and everybody, I think anybody who works, all of you watching who work in long-term care, remember that day when we were told we couldn't have visitors, and we all had to tell people who were here every single day that they couldn't come tomorrow, and we don't know when you can come back in. That was, it gives me chills just saying that out loud. I think everybody has a little PTSD from that. We started thinking about how are we going to compensate for that? That was a horrible thing to tell people they can't come in. And how do you have an answer for somebody who says, well, who's going to check in on my husband? Who's going to make sure that I get a phone call? Who's going to set up a Zoom or something like that with us? So we felt it very important to, as much as possible, pair every single elder up with a staff member. So again, I want to say I volunteered, or I asked people to volunteer, but I think that the term voluntold is a little more appropriate. If people did not volunteer, I did ask for volunteers. If people did not volunteer, I had conversation with them to ask them about why they didn't want to volunteer. Now, some people had very good reasons that had to do with anxiety and the pandemic, and they're not clinical, so they didn't want to be in spaces where they might be more susceptible to the virus. But most people, after having a conversation with them, were pretty open to at least having one person to connect with. And so the goal was to have every single elder have at least 1 or 2 visits, friendly visits a week, to say, hey, how's it going? Now, some elders, as you all know, need more than 1 or 2 a week. And we paired them up with someone who had the opportunity to spend every day with them, pop in every day. And some people didn't need that much, but everybody was paired with at least 1 elder. Many people took on 4, 5, 6 elders to visit and talk to them, make sure they were okay. Part of their responsibility also was to be a liaison between the family who couldn't come in and the elders. So a lot of our elders are living with dementia and can't really communicate their needs as well as we'd like them to be able to. And the family members would be very concerned. Well, geez, if I'm not there, kind of being their interpreter, if you will, who's going to interpret for my mom? So we would have the buddy talk to the family member, and then also facilitate Zoom meetings a couple of times a week to make sure that the elder and the family members had opportunity to lay eyes on each other. And I know a lot of other organizations did that same thing. I think the one thing that we did that was a little bit different was that it was the same consistent person going in to talk to that elder and facilitating the Zoom meetings. And if the elder really liked oatmeal raisin cookies, I would go to the gift shop and buy an oatmeal raisin cookie once a week and be like, here's your cookie. And that's what we would talk about. Even if it was only for 5 minutes, pop up, give the cookie and then chat for a few minutes and then go away. So it was a nice way. And I will tell you also, this buddy program really positioned us very well to get through a lot of milestone 2 without even trying, because we had to form relationships with staff members. Someone from the finance office was up forming a relationship with the CNA that was taking care of their buddy, and they wanted to make sure the CNA knew that their oatmeal raisin cookie, they wanted it after dinner and they weren't going to be here. So can you please make sure they get it? So those relationships that didn't previously exist between staff member and staff member, staff member and elder, staff member and family member, really, we were able to do that on a deeper level using those relationships, and having that consistency between the staff member and the elder as we went through that. Trisha Jean, did I leave any?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was jumping in on you.
Oh, that's okay.
And then Trisha Jean, but I was just saying, what really strikes me is the beauty of that story, of course, but is that we talk so much about consistent care partnership.
Yeah.
And being with the same people. We talk about that in like hands-on care, how important it is to have that. But I love also that you guys really step back and recognized to have that same person having those conversations. It's not like somebody new coming in, they have to play catch up, right? Oh, what is happening with this person and what do they like? Like they were involved in every step of the way. And we do have a question, and you've said a little bit of it, but we had a question come in. This is from Meredith Martin. And she was asking, do you have any stories of how relationships changed or deepened, maybe between the elders, families, and employees as a result of the buddy system? So I think you talked a little bit about that. Does anything else come up, either TJ or you? Yeah.
Yeah, I have a couple. You good with me, Sue?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I have a short story to share about my two friends, Lisa and Ted. My friend Lisa, she's been at St. Anne's Community for about 22 years, which is awesome. We have a lot of longevity there. And she was always involved in elder life, would help out at Christmas parties, pass out presents at Mother's Day, things of that nature. And she has an administrative role, so she was kind of on the outskirts a little bit, but always there to help when we needed her, and always in very close with a lot of our care partners. But we asked Lisa to become a buddy with our friend Ted, who happens to live in the building that I help lead. And I could cry thinking about the beautiful relationship that came from that. So to say it was out of Lisa's comfort zone is an understatement, but she's a trooper. She went up on that floor and she met Ted, and then she met Ted's family, and they became the best of buddies. So it's our darkest days of COVID. We're living through a lot of isolation and different things, and you walk onto the household and there's Lisa and Ted slow dancing, and she's all gowned up with a face shield, and Ted is grinning, and they're just dancing together, and the joy that you could see there and the connectedness was just amazing. Lisa and Ted's family have become very close, and I'm happy to say I got to witness them dance at her wedding this past summer, and that's how deep that relationship got. That Ted and Lisa had a rum and coke on the deck, and then they danced after her first song with her new husband. So it was just amazing to see that transformation. And she shared with me that she's a different person because of the buddy system and because of being in elder life in such a different way. She helps cook breakfast on his household once a week. She has her cute little apron on, and they have coffee together. And she's become part of the family of that household. So like Sue said, we were able to accomplish things because it naturally flourished, all those relationships and the beauty within that. And now she's a staple for not only the employee care partners, but the elders that live there. They all know her, and she's Ted's buddy. So it's just so great to see that go and that kind of flourish in our depression rates. If we're looking at that stuff, when we review our quality measures, our depression rates were at their lowest during COVID, which is odd if you think about it, but we had that connection and that consistency at all times. So it was really great. Personally, I had a bunch of buddies too, like Sue said, and I had two ladies, and they were neighbors in the community. So they've had a long-standing relationship of over 60 years. And during COVID, one of the elders was sick and ending her journey with us. And just being close to her and being close to her best friend, we were able to grieve together and get through that situation together. And just knowing her family on such a deeper level than I did before on both sides, both of my friends, Pat and Bev, it helped my friend Pat after her girlfriend left, in how Pat and I still go on our walks together. She drinks whiskey and I have a Coke in the evening. We have a good time. And sometimes she doesn't remember who I am anymore, but she just knows I'm that nice lady that comes. And that's great because I feel better about going to work every day. And I know that I make a difference. And that times the 300 folks that were doing that. And it just really created such a wonderful environment. So those are just some of the many beautiful things that I've seen happen. People just sometimes resistant at first, like all culture change, right? But then totally changing their view and connecting. I'm in the finance department, I'm making decisions on budgets, but I see it differently now. So let's work through that together and let's find that money to get this so that community life is better for our elders. Yeah.
Oh boy, well, you can tell you're getting some comments in the chat box there. This one says Lisa Ted here sending love, TJ. Thank you. So yeah, and you got
Yeah,
some,
he's
love
a good
it.
one.
Go Ted. I popped a couple of
Yeah,
those up there. So beautiful.
yeah.
Thank you.
I did have something I wanted to share, Chris, that I forgot to share earlier about how we supported our care partners in a different way during COVID. Sue was talking about the transformation and our three forms of transformation. We did a lot of physical transformation, right, with the change in the building. Our personal transformation was already in and the ball was rolling with it, I guess. And then organizationally, we started looking at things differently. And St. Anne's did so many wonderful things for our care partners, but some of the things that really made a difference, and even me personally, but also my colleagues, and some of us were working 10, 12-hour shifts, and the grocery stores are weird, and how are we going to make dinner and all that good stuff. So St. Anne's provided free meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for their care partners for many, many months. We could just go down and get food and not have to worry about it. And what a burden that lifted off of a lot of us. I ate a lot of hot dogs, but it was good, and it helped just when you don't have to think about your basic needs and you can be there and be in the moment and support people. That's just wonderful. We had a mini grocery store at one point where you could buy bananas and milk and toilet paper in case in case the store was closed on the way home. We had every single employee got a Christmas gift, a personalized Wegmans card. We did a gift card. We did things like sweatshirts and fleeces, food trucks. We had ice cream trucks come. The fire department did a parade for us. We had an antique car show of over 150 cars one weekend. People were just pouring love out to us, but people got such a big kick out of it, just staring out the window, because it was breaking up the monotony of our day-to-day kind of survival mode. Let's see, I have a little list here. I'm just making sure I get everything. One of our big things we did too was that we implemented a permanent casual dress policy, which doesn't seem like a big deal to some people, but it's a big deal to us. And folks were wearing colors and scrubs with bright things, and we started having theme days and anything to keep morale up and people pumped up to go to work. And how much like that spontaneity of having something like a headband with doodly bops on your head, going into an elder's room when they've been in there for a long time, like that breaks up and brings that spontaneity and helps fight the three plagues. So we did a lot of really cool stuff, including appreciation gifts and financial bonuses for people too. So St. Anne's did take a lot of pride in supporting our care partners through the pandemic as well.
Right. Yeah, we know that happy employees equals happy elders, hopefully. So
Yes.
And that's the the Eden Alternative golden rule too. And if you're wondering about the plagues, we at the Eden Alternative we talk about loneliness, helplessness, and boredom are deadly. They're and we need to look at those spiritual needs of people as well as their physical needs because we're really good, right, at nursing homes and assisted living and looking at physical needs, but those spiritual needs are very important as well. So another comment from Meredith Martin here, pouring love out and bringing a brand new meeting to community life. So beautiful. All right. Wow, you guys. See, didn't I tell you at the beginning, audience, that this was going to be powerful, right? And some great stuff. Okay, so where do we want to go from here? Sue, do you want to talk a little bit about, I think you had something with the emergency teams or?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. So our staffing, well, I'll go back to what you were saying, Chris, about consistency with staffing. You said a little bit about that and how the buddy system did provide that consistency. Our staffing, I'd like to say our staffing was consistent during this whole time frame, but I think not unlike most other organizations, we were shifting and shuffling people every which way. And I remember at one point I think it was the whole third floor or fourth floor, one of those floors, everybody got COVID at the same time, all of the elders and all of the staff. So we had no staff on the third floor. So I laugh now because I actually had to look back through emails at staffing for something completely unrelated. And I saw staffing sheets from like May, June of 2020. And I was like, oh my goodness. And you know how you kind of like push that stuff out of your mind? I think it's a defense mechanism for a reason. Anyway, the staffing was bad. And we ended up having to make sure that we had enough staff. And I mean, I'm sure that this is not atypical of most other nursing homes across the community. We used that same group of people that were buddies, and everybody was pretty much trained to do everything. We had a lot of people go through the nurse aid training, and that waiver is still in place, where you can use people who are just trained to be nurses aides and they, legally can provide care. So there was that group. And then we had another huge group of people who, although they were not 100% comfortable doing that hands-on care to the degree a nurse aide would be able to do, they were more than willing to help out with meals and feeding and even doing vitals and stuff like that. So we had another training for that group of people, but pretty much we had about, I want to say a little over 100, 150 staff members who went through extra training and were willing and able to be on what we're calling emergency staffing groups or where they did a rotation. So we had 20 people on a group of their groups of 20 people, and they were on. So this week, if it was my group, my 20 people would be responsible for working the evening shift instead of the day shift. So you're spreading out your staff so that not all of the office people and people that could be extra set of hands are here only on the day shift. We've got the evening shift covered as well to get you through dinner. In addition, that group would take one weekend out of the month to be present. So that did a couple things. And I think having people kind of primed and comfortable up on those units and going in and understanding how the workflow went. By this point, by May, June, we were pretty comfortable with the workflow because we had been buddying for several weeks at that point. It was a little bit more comfortable for people to take that next step and say, at first, to think of somebody who's a biller going up and taking vital signs for somebody seems kind of ridiculous. But if that biller had watched the vital signs being done because they were up visiting and understood why they were done and knew where to write it down, well, then that's a little easier. So, it was kind of incremental change, but it worked out very well. And we ended up having an extra set of hands all weekend, 20 people. And I can tell you, they used many weekends. They used every single soul that was able to come into this building. And it was a huge help. And I think it helped not only with obviously the physical work, because the work just had to get done. And we have to take care of these human beings who've entrusted their lives to us quite literally. So people took that very seriously. The unintended but very positive side effect was that all of these folks were now extremely knowledgeable about what happens at the bedside and what kind of challenges their colleagues go through on a day-to-day basis, how hard and backbreaking that work can sometimes be. And I think it gave us a new appreciation for one another, certainly on the clinical end where people had to literally work in their shoes for a period of time. I will also say that there is a limit too. So I know like this, so now we've done that, right? And the vaccine mandates came back a couple of weeks ago. And so we know what we're doing. Everybody said, okay, we're going to enact the weekend and evening teams, and everyone goes, okay, but they know what we're doing now. I think that and I think that this goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. When you do things like that and pull people out of their comfort zone over and over again, there has to be a balance to that as well, because people can get very burned out if they're being pulled left and right and center and doing all kinds of things. So, but when it's an emergency and you have to use it, to have the amazing staff that we've had here be able to just jump right up and say, okay, I'm here, I've got you, whatever you need me to do, just let me know and we'll figure out the rest. That was amazing to have here at St. Anne's. I said it earlier, I'll say it again, the staff here is second to none. They stepped up in ways that I didn't before. If you told me that they would have done that, I really would have been, I would have told you, yeah, right, I don't think so. But they did it and they did it well. And we didn't end up having to use those emergency teams for the vaccine mandate, because at the end of the day, we had enough people, but they were ready and people cleared their schedules and we had a plan going out for a month. And then at the last minute, I called it off because we had enough people and it worked out. But we would have been ready to do it, and people were ready and able.
What a plan. Wow. And the willingness as well. It's I went through certified nursing assistant training, and to all the CNAs out there, I'm telling you, what you do is amazing. I don't have any children, so I've never dressed anybody in my life. So I'm literally, that was the scariest thing, was to do my clinicals, right? Up on the neighborhood. I was petrified. So it really is stepping out of the comfort zone, but it really talks about, the care and the willingness to really realize that, yes, these people have entrusted their lives to us. And I may work in the business office or whatever it may be, but we always say the business office, don't we?
I know, right?
I know, we pick on
the admissions. Yeah.
HR, human resources.
So
we have a comment here from Glory. I want to share with you. She says, your love for the elders is infectious. Your coworkers are blessed to have you as cheerleaders. So thank you, Glory. Thank you.
Thanks, Mom.
I wasn't going to call you out, but I knew that was her.
Your mom? Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, hey, Mom.
All right. Yes. Go, Mom.
Go, Mom. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I had the privilege of being able to be one of those nursing assistants and a few other of my colleagues. And I thought I was an in-tune leader. I thought I knew what was going on. I live on the floors. I'm in people's lives. I love being involved in community. That's why I'm in life enrichment. That's why I'm a rec therapist. It's something that is near and dear to my heart. But you put those scrubs on and you're in someone's room and you need help and you don't know what teamwork means until that is there. And it also gave me such an appreciation for servant leadership. And also it made me take a step back and say, why do we do it this way? And why is this located there? And why doesn't anyone ever complain about it? Because I'm getting really annoyed that I have to walk all the way down the hall to get, a towel or whatever. So we started doing huddles differently and learning from people and setting up different stations and just having sometimes those resources readily available differently or changing times of stuff. So we really started breaking down those silos and opening up communication so more people's voices were being heard, and working as a team differently than we did before. It was such an eye-opening experience for me. To really understand where people were coming from. And you're right, CNAs are angels from above, because that is something else. And we have a household model where they're cooking too and cleaning a little bit, and just seeing people step up in different ways. We have folks from environmental services who were like, hey, I see you, and would sit down and read the paper with someone so that someone could go help an elder in their room and the other elders were okay. We just kind of blurred those lines and broke those silos, and it made for better teams all around. Yeah.
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 All because of a pandemic.
Right?
It is.
Yeah.
And we've heard is, different stories from different places that, you
Mhm.
know, as horrible, and we know there's no saying, I mean, I wasn't in an organization and talk about feeling helpless. Like people who are on the outside can't even come in and help.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Part of me went, phew, I'm glad I don't work in an organization anymore,
Mhm.
selfishly. But another part, you just feel this call, this need to
Yeah.
help. And I just knew all my friends are just in it and what,
Yeah.
what you must be going
Mhm.
through. Um,
Yeah.
but we have heard of these silver linings that have come out of what an awful situation, you
Mhm.
know. So
Yeah.
this is, it's kind of interesting on the flip side that there were things that happened. I mean, that's a powerful, powerful story, TJ, about
Yeah.
servant leadership right there. You saw things that, right? Because I would say to myself too, I'm very in tune. I would think,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
That's
Yeah.
what I thought.
Walk a
Yeah.
day in the
Mhm.
life, right? And that
Mhm.
really, because some people
Yeah.
talk about a way to strengthen or better relationships between coworkers is to do like job shadowing, right?
Right.
But who has time and when does that happen and all that?
Mhm.
And what I'm hearing from you guys is it just kind of this was a true kind of job, not even
Mhm.
shadowing, but a filling in, and where that led
Yeah.
to was a deeper
Yeah.
respect and
Yeah.
understanding between
Yeah, it
people.
helped care plan teams. We have social work and recreation therapy or life enrichment, clinical dietitians, nurse managers, and even their roles started to be blurred more in understanding each other's perspectives and why we do things the way we do. All of us were making those calls, like Sue said. The regs changed so many times. At first, we had to physically call everyone to say there was a positive elder, in the other building. Like every day we're making hundreds of phone calls literally because we have so many people living there, and instead of having that burden on social work, we all shared it, and it just gave us a better appreciation for each other, I think, too, on all so many different levels.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow, 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 wow.
Yeah.
um, All right. So, is there anything else you want to talk about? I know you guys have just and still so much going on. You're working on your milestone too. If
We are.
anybody out there doesn't know what we're talking about, the Eden Alternative Registered Homes have a path to mastery. So it's milestone 1 when you join, you achieve that, and then there's milestone 2, milestone 3, milestone 4 that you work through for your path to mastery. And you guys are even diligently have been working on this. Like you said, some of the
Yeah.
steps brought you closer. So
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
Just continuing to warm the soil, like Sue said earlier.
Right? And you've kept up education,
Yep.
to the best of your ability. So it's really
Mhm.
amazing what you guys are doing at St. Anne's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is it's a shift in focus over the past month or two to not, well, after the vaccine mandate emergency, but to not constantly operate in emergency mode. And I think that it feels weird a little bit like,
Mhm.
I don't want to say almost even decadent to be able to spend some time on this stuff because we've been operating in emergency mode for so long. Um, but it feels really good to really be very purposeful about it and get all the manuals back out and make sure that we're doing what we want to do and are achieving the goals that we want to achieve. And that was the silver lining for the pandemic, was that it forced us, whether we wanted to or not, we were going to have to do some of this stuff a little bit differently.
Right.
um and it helped us very much having that foundation from Eden to
Going
help
into
us.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, we are beyond pleased to have you as a official Eden Registry member, and I learned from you all the time, and I hope to continue to do so. So, if you're interested in learning more about St. Anne's, this is obviously their website, StAnne'sCommunity.com. Just fabulous, large, but very person-directed, organization. Sometimes we say the larger you get, it is more challenging, but St. Anne's is taking great steps. There's small households in this huge tower that you have done the transformation on are just amazing, right? You come out of the elevator and you can go right to one household, or left
Mhm.
together, and you're like in a foyer, right?
Yeah.
You come
Yeah.
out there.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then you're going into a house.
Yeah.
So really, really exciting. Thank you for being with us today and sharing all the stuff about creativity and resiliency with us. Any final words?
Final words.
Yeah.
You go first, Trisha Jean.
Oh,
On
all
the
I had
spot.
was thank you.
Final word. That's the final word.
Final words. My favorite quote right now is from the great and powerful Ted Lasso, and that is, "Be curious, not judgmental." So, and I
That's
think that you
perfect,
could
Sue.
that could take you all the way through culture change. Be curious, not judgmental. So, all of you
Absolutely.
Ted Lasso fans out there, hats off. If you haven't seen it, you should watch it.
I think I will now, but I love the
Okay.
quote.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you again for spending time with us today. And I know I will see you in the future. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you,
Thank
Chris.
you.
Thank you.